Claw beakers, so popular in the medieval era, have their roots in the late Roman world. This is a typical example. This claw beaker has the characteristic Roman foot. It's tiny, but it's there. And claw beakers generally have a casual quality to them, a relaxed look. They're never made with great precision. Claw beakers are typically rather hefty. The walls are thick, and this requires a fair amount of glass. So I've made a coating gather. This is a collecting gather, and it's a way of quickly getting quite a bit of glass on the end of a blowpipe. I use the block for the initial shaping of the glass. And then the initial bubble is begun with the blowpipe held slightly downward. This elongates the bubble as it grows larger. And the goal here is not to make a bubble that's spherical, but rather one that is somewhat long. So the blowpipe is spun to further elongate the glass. A constriction is begun near the blowpipe, and the bubble is reheated, blown larger, held downward to make the bubble larger and more tapered. Sometimes spinning produces the needed centripetal force to elongate the bubble. After the bubble has been elongated, the preparation is made for the tiny Roman foot. And the Roman foot is made by constricting the bottom near the base, flattening the bottom, putting a blade of the jacks on either side, squeezing it, and now, while holding the constriction, I suck in with the blowhose, and the floor of the bubble moves upward to touch the narrowest part of the constriction. The bubble is reheated, and air is blown in gently to round the bottom of the bubble. The next step is to make the spiral threads in the lower half of the vessel. A small gather is made on the end of a metal rod. It's marvered to a point, touched lightly, and the threading begins. These threads are very superficial. They're barely attached, and they need to be immediately melted in to the surface of the vessel. Otherwise, they'll break off very easily. So this is a long reheat. Next, the making of the claws begins. A gather of glass is put on the side of the vessel, cast free of its gathering rod, and after a flash, the flash is essential for keeping the spiral threads intact. Air is blown into the blowpipe. The wall has been re-softened. It makes a bubble or bulge, and with a pointed tool, this is forced or pulled downward. And this is repeated 3 more times. The occasional flashes deep in the furnace are essential for preserving the threads. The spiral threads easily pop off if they get cooler than about 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Here's the last claw. The spinning produces centripetal force that elongates the bubble. Here's the second tier of claws. And here is the last claw being pulled downward. I'm blowing in the blow hose to make a nice bend. The vessel is thoroughly flashed to get the vessel well above about 1,100 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's transferred to the punty. It's a little hotter than usual because during this process, the threads are very vulnerable and can crack off easily, thus the excess heat. It's immediately flashed in the furnace, again to preserve the threads. And a second spiral thread is added in the upper half of the vessel. Threading is certainly one of the most common decorations in all glass blowing. It's a technique that was used for decorating core-formed vessels 1,500 years earlier than the invention of glass blowing. With the reheats and the toolings, the upper shape of the vessel is given its slight tapering shape and its flared rim. After a thorough flash, the vessel is taken to the annealing oven. The punty, the metal rod, tapped and the junction breaks, leaving the characteristic small scar, the punty mark.